Are you a little bit under the weather, James?
Yeah, just a touch, unfortunately.
You got that rich bass voice you strive for at the beginning of all of our calls.
Yeah. I always have that when I'm sick.
All the time.
Or or when I wake up early or got up for a keynote the night before or something like that. Always happens.
One of those are coming up real soon.
Yeah, okay.
As a matter of fact, do we even have a show between now and the next keynote? We don't.
Do we have a date for the next keynote?
I think it's widely rumored going to happen on the 10th.
Really? Oh, wow, that's really early September. Okay. Then I guess we don't. Quick, change the topics.
Better. I mean, I don't know what much to say about the rumors. We've talked them to death already. There hasn't been any new news in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Rumors go.
What if there is like a crazy new? What if Guy Rambo finds like a another marketing image of the next phone? We're gonna have to have an emergency show.
Something in 13.1 that he just digs up in the next day or two.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't consider that possibility.
It's definitely possible.
That's a huge possibility, isn't it? But I wonder, like, surely they intended, surely the new iPhone's going to ship with 13, or they intended it to ship with 13. So if there's anything hidden in 13, if there's anything going to be hidden in 13.1, it would have also been hidden the same way in 13.0.
Yeah, my only thought would be that perhaps in 13, like, they put some deliberate effort into concealing stuff prior to the keynote, and then maybe the 13.1 beta shouldn't have come out as early as it did, and so there's some stuff in there that they didn't try to hide because they didn't think they needed to.
Yeah. Maybe there's some stuff in there that checks the release number, and it's like, okay, 13.1, we don't have to hide anymore.
Yeah.
And suddenly the 6-camera algorithms come into view.
Right. I think we probably would have heard something already if there was anything major in 13.1, since it's been a couple of days now.
Yeah, okay, right. Yep.
So
the public beta of 13.1 is out as well. I was like pretty skeptical whether that would come out, but that dropped as well, I think, overnight.
Oh, really? I hadn't seen that yet.
We should probably save that into the actual topic.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, James.
Hot off the press. Apple debuts new iCloud.com beta site with fresh look and reminders app. Amazing news, but also this is like probably 2 seconds of effort because nearly nothing has changed besides the homepage wallpaper and the addition of the reminders app. So like, don't get excited about this.
Yeah, I was messing around with this earlier today, hoping that there'd be some real functional differences here, but it really is just stylized a little differently, and I'm not sure that I prefer it.
No, I thought you. I wasn't sure what you'd think actually about the floating bubbles of a wallpaper.
Those floating bubble wallpapers is still what I use on my iPhone.
Really?
Like right now, I use the black one with the multicolored bubbles, but that's still my wallpaper.
Did you see that 13.1 has like 7 new floating bubble colors?
Which was surprising, considering they haven't updated this since it was first added to iOS.
iOS 7, I think, brought the bubbles.
Yeah, it's been a while. I saw the post stating that there was new stuff in there, and I went to look, but I don't remember the old ones enough to be able to tell there's a difference because I've just always used the one.
Which one do you prefer? My favorite, I think, is the blue. Oh, you just told us your favorite, obviously.
Yeah, I use black with multicolored bubbles.
Black with multicolored bubbles. So, I can't even picture that.
It's the only one that's not just one color. So it's got like a true black wallpaper, and then the little floating orbs are all different colors instead of just one color like all the other wallpapers.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, yep, I can see them now. I'm just having a look. So what happened to all the colourful ones? Maybe this is an iPad thing, but I've only got black backgrounds with different coloured bubbles, whereas I'm picturing the different coloured backgrounds with plain coloured bubbles.
I have both of those, so maybe it's just an iPhone thing to have the different coloured backgrounds.
Okay. I think I might try out the old floating bubbles for a little while. Here we go. Set lock screen. See how that goes for me.
All right. Yeah, I like dark like backgrounds. I don't like having a photo because my apps obscure them mostly anyway. So I actually used the plain black one even longer after the wallpapers were first added. But then when these dynamic stuff popped up 4 or 5 years ago now, I liked the little splash of color the bubbles gave without too much distraction, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like having black behind apps, although I haven't set it for a while. Normally I just stick with the stock, like whatever comes, I'm pretty happy with. Occasionally I would set it back to like a previous one. Like I really loved the photo of the world from a really early iOS.
Right. Yeah, generally I try to give the new default wallpapers like some screen time. And usually what I'd end up doing is my lock screen is the default wallpaper and then my home screen is that dynamic one. But I'm really not a fan of the new stock wallpapers with iOS 13, so I didn't even bother.
Okay. So what do you think about the iCloud beta site, which is just plain old white? It's like Johnny Ive came back just for this.
Yeah, it's fine. It feels really undone, like not finished to me, but it's clearly just a design choice to go flat white. But yeah, I definitely preferred the old one.
I think I prefer the new one. I think it looks a lot more like the rest of apple.com, where you've got a black bar along the top.
That's true.
And then you've just got a white background with content. And that's what this looks like now. It's way more uniform with Apple support pages, with your Apple ID pages, and just in general with everything on apple.com.
I think my biggest gripe in this transition is how much smaller the app icons got.
In line with iPad OS.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for them to be huge buttons on the screen. When you have a precision input device, especially like a mouse, there's no reason for anything to be that large. But it seems like there's a lot of wasted space, whereas otherwise it used to be just big icons.
They should have made them text links.
Yeah, just
that'll be the true iOS 7 redesign.
And as far as the Reminders app goes, that's probably the app I would care least about having on iCloud. I would have really liked to see, and I don't think this is necessarily going to happen anytime soon, but a iMessage app on the browser.
That is the biggest noted absence, I think, at this point. There's still no iMessage app. Yeah. I mean, I'm using iCloud.com when I'm A, on a Windows computer, or B, on someone else's Mac, basically. Like when I'm, the obvious times.
Right.
And those are the times where I'd like to just kind of do everything in the little Apple universe, including send iMessages to people. But I bet it's not a simple engineering effort just to add that in there, especially considering all the security around iMessage.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not just like flick a switch. Although maybe it is at this point. Maybe they have it implemented and they're just waiting for the right time to turn it on. But
have you heard rumors to that effect?
No, I haven't. But it seems so obvious. It would be weird to me if they haven't tried it already. Especially when they did the big iMessage revamp a few years ago and added apps and stickers and stuff to compete with Messenger, which was first and foremost a web-based messaging service. It seems like if they're going to go against platforms like that, they should offer a browser experience as well.
Yeah, it might give them a little hand against Messenger too. At least in my circles, I've noticed that Messenger is like pretty quickly overtaking iMessage. Even for people who do usually send me iMessages, often they just resort to Messenger these days. That's just my little anecdote, my little circle of friends, but iMessage seems to be on the decline.
Man, I don't really have a good reference point. iMessage was never popular among me and my circle of friends. I was pretty much the only Apple user. As a matter of fact, the only other people that use iOS that I message frequently are my parents and my girlfriend. And literally everyone else I know uses Android. But we don't have any like messaging solution to that. We just use plain old SMS. and it's never been an issue for us.
Plain old SMS. Wow, you're really living in the Wild West, eh?
We don't need any fancy stickers or apps if we just want to send a message real quick.
The problem for me with plain old SMS is it just doesn't work a lot of the time. Maybe that's my carrier or something in Australia, but like if I send an SMS, I'm not certain it's going to get through to the other end.
Really? That's never been my experience. As a matter of fact,
And it shouldn't be the experience, but
yeah.
It's happened for many, many years. We're talking like 5+ years this has been the case. And it's not just like me and one other contact, like with a dodgy phone. It's like me and anyone. Or maybe it's people just like screening me and then coming out with excuses later.
Didn't get the message.
No, it works both ways though. It works both ways. People have told me they've sent me something that's never arrived and that sort of thing.
That's really weird. I've never heard a complaint about the reliability of SMS before.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's expected to be like rock solid.
Yeah, you'd think something that simple should be, super easy to implement. Huh. I don't know if that's a Australia thing or if it's just I've gotten lucky in my part of the country, but I've never heard anyone complain about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone else complain about it. Maybe it's just because everyone else is... Well, most people have kind of moved on to WhatsApp or something else.
Right. Yeah, I think this is really it's not just me. It seems to be a US thing where the transitioning to messaging services is more popular outside the US. And then here, SMS is still used a lot. And kind of as an extension, iMessage is because it seamlessly implements the SMS or whatever. I mean, I don't, there's so many people I see online saying that iMessage is like the reason they use iOS. And to me, it's the most nothing feature of iOS because I don't use iMessage with anyone and I wouldn't be losing anything. So yeah, I never really understood the infatuation with messaging. Although I probably text you more than anyone else. So that probably gives you a good reference of how much I text.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So we don't text like a whole lot. So
no, like a couple messages a week or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I still make phone calls when I want to talk to someone.
And here's me on the other side of the pond. Doesn't even have like a device that can make phone calls anymore. Anyway. Spales in the comments says, will the Remember Me button finally work? And I got to say, I've never had a problem with the Remember Me button. It's always been like months or even never that it hasn't remembered me after I've logged in once. Like maybe after an OS update, it would forget me or changing browser or clearing cookies, whatever. But yeah, Remember Me button is pretty good at my end.
I don't use iCloud.com frequently enough to know whether it works or not for me. It seems like every time I sign in, I have to do the two-factor authentication, but I also use multiple browsers and I'm on multiple computers. So I'm never sure if it's like, did that button not work or did I just use a different browser last time?
Yeah, right.
So it's not an inconvenience for me, especially with how quickly it is to enter. Although I do prefer Microsoft's implementation to two-factor authentication. I have an app I installed on my phone from Microsoft, and if I need to sign into my work Outlook account or anything remotely, the app just gives me a push notification saying, do you want to approve or decline? And I can just tap approve, and there's no, type this code into the browser or anything like that. And that could be something that Apple could really seamlessly implement since you don't have to install an app to get that to work. So that seems like a more logical step than making you type in a code.
They are doing something with the security of beta.icloud.com. They have actually enabled it on iPad OS and turned on login with Face ID.
Oh, really?
So this is kind of the biggest news. I think I've buried the lead a little bit here. But yeah, it works just like you'd expect it to on a desktop. And yeah, when you go and sign in, you get this little prompt. I don't think I've even seen this sort of prompt before for a Face ID login. It kind of looks in the style of you'd see on a desktop, yet you're on the iPad, and then it gives you a little Face ID glyph, and away you go. No, you don't even have to put in your in your password. That, of course, doesn't help if you're on like a Windows computer or someone else's computer, because you're not going to have Face ID there. Like, this is for your own devices. But
how would that work? If you signed in to iCloud on someone else's iPad, would it give you the option for Face ID, or would it want their Face ID to sign into your account, or how would that even work?
That's a good question. It's not going to ask for your face on someone else's iPad.
Right.
And surely it's
your
not
face
going
map
to...
is stored on device, so it can't be on the web that they're checking this.
And it's not going to ask for their face to log into someone else's iCloud account.
It must just not show the button. That could be the only option.
Yeah. Let me log out. I can take you through exactly what the buttons are.
Okay.
All right, so I hit log out, and immediately I get a modal dialog pop up that says, do you want to sign into beta.icloud.com with your Apple ID? Gives me my Apple ID and a continue button. Actually, underneath it's a little text link. Use different Apple ID. But anyway, I'm going to click continue. Immediately I got a Face ID glyph, and it has signed me in. All right, now I'm just going to do the same thing, but clicking use a different Apple ID, and I bet it's just going to give me a plain old username and password. Yeah, there we go. It's just asking for a username and password.
Okay.
Yeah, so an interesting enhancement considering the limited usefulness of it.
Right. I think this might be more useful, and maybe is hinting towards Face ID coming to the Mac, which still has limited use because I mainly would be signing into iCloud.com on something that's not my device or not a Mac.
All right, so this is only going to be useful on your device when you're logging into iCloud.com.
Right. Which if I'm on my device,
that?
all those apps are already on my device. So
the only reason to do that is to set up rules in Mail, because you can't do that in mail.app.
What? Is there more functionality for the Mail app in the iCloud?
No, the rules thing has always been there, but that's like the only reason I sign into it on my own devices typically, because you just can't add like server-side rules to your iCloud Mail.
I wasn't even aware you could do that.
iCloud.com. Yeah, you can. There you go.
Cool.
iOS 13.1 beta has been released. This is unprecedented as far as I know, to get like the 0.1 beta out before the 0.0 is even out of its beta cycle.
Right.
So it seems like the current beta is basically heading towards GM without much more being changed on it. I'd be surprised if we get more than like one more beta, considering most of the work is probably going to the 0.1 now.
Well, how is that even going to work if they were to... Because there has to be a GM release of 13.0, but how is that going to get to the hands of beta testers? Because now my beta profile is updating me to 13.1. So how am I going to get the 13.0 GM?
Maybe it doesn't go to beta testers? That seems unlikely though, doesn't it? So are you thinking that the current beta release is going straight to GM?
It doesn't feel right to me to say that either.
Because of how bad it is?
Well, there's definitely some issues. But also they're coming really close. We're talking 2 to 3 weeks before these new iPhones are going to be in people's hands. So they have to be flashing these, probably this week at the latest with whatever the GM is. So maybe it is. It seems weird that it wasn't labeled that way, but I don't know. I don't know what else they're going to do.
There have been some prophesizing in the comments about what they're going to do. Some people even saying that once the new iPhones are in their boxes, they're actually in some sort of low power, ready to update mode, and they can actually get updates pushed to them while they're in the box, after which they update themselves and then go into power off state. The commenter was asked for a source and didn't have one, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, what network would these phones be connected to do that?
Foxconn Wi-Fi. Foxconn public AP with underscores under each word.
Did you just make that up, or have you gotten a device before that has that connection history?
100% made that
up. Oh, man. I mean, I suppose it's possible that this update, they'd also wipe, like, past connections. It's not impossible, but seems way too risky. They can't guarantee that they're shipping a functioning device and it didn't break itself during updates or anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's no way they'd do that.
Yep, all right.
So
we'll put it down to a myth.
They're gonna ship a phone with a buggy 13.0 and probably have a 13.0.1 like day one or week one update, and then 13.1 will come. If I had to guess, 13.1 is going to come with the release of the new iPads in October.
So just for like maybe a month, people are going to be running the 13.0, which isn't too crash hot. I think that's the simplest explanation, and so it's also probably the correct explanation.
Sometimes that's true with Apple.
Yeah. They need to get these phones like in their boxes, the new iPhones, and yeah, they need an OS to put on them, and it's going to be 13.0 in its current state, and people are going to have to live with a bit of pain for a little while. Interesting, yeah, that 13.1 probably coming in October with new iPads. That sounds nice. Haven't heard too many rumors about those yet, but I'm rubbing my hands together in anticipation.
I think the only thing I've heard is better cameras. Like, maybe at some point there was a rumor they're going to switch to multiple cameras on the back, but yeah, I haven't heard anything outside of that.
Well, it is definitely just like a spec bump year for the iPad, if anything, really.
Yeah, they've landed on a great design. I really hope they don't try to move away from that too quickly.
What do you think about all the features that have actually been pulled from 13.0? Like automations, like scheduling workflows and that sort of thing. Maps ETA, like sharing ETA, Bluetooth audio sharing, announced messages with Siri, all this stuff should have been in 13.0. It's been pulled at various times over the 13.0 like beta releases. Some of it's coming to 13.1. But Apple has seemingly had a long time to work on this, because remember back when iOS 12 came out and like it wasn't a big release, and everyone was saying, oh, all the major stuff is coming in 13, like they need like extra time to work on this, and yet half of the main features are missing from 13.0 even.
Right, yeah. I don't know if I saw this on Reddit or this was a tweet that I saw, but I did see someone say something to the effect of, these last few years Apple's been announcing at WWDC these new features that are going to roll out over the lifetime of the OS and not just like the day one features. And I think I'm fine with that if they're pitched that way. If they say, in iOS 13, we're going to add these features, you'll get this batch in September and this batch in November and then this batch in January. That'd actually be kind of cool. Because I think it was even all the way back to iOS 8. They just halfway through the life cycle added the night shift, which was a big requested feature at the time, and kind of no one expected them to do that halfway through an OS.
I think that was 9.4 where they announced like a bunch of features coming with a point update.
Right. And they did the same thing, maybe not in iOS 12, but like in iOS 11, I believe. And I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but I know they've stripped features from the 0.0 release to add them back in 0.1.
iMessage in the cloud, maybe?
Yep, that's a good one. I mean, portrait mode came a little later, but I think that was announced that it was going to come later.
Yeah, I think that came in as a beta release in maybe the 0.0, and it wasn't until one of the 0.1 or 0.2 that it went out of beta.
Right. So
I don't think anything changed, though. They're just like, we can't make this any better. Let's just take the label off.
Right.
So it's a perception thing, is what you're saying, that we're just expecting everything in the 0.0 when they say iOS 13, but what they're really saying now is iOS 13, and like waving their arms across the rest of the year.
Well, they've done nothing to make us believe that's their intention. As a matter of, just because, while there are examples I can point out, for the most part, everything they announce is in the initial 0.0 release of an OS. But I'd be fine with them transitioning to that, especially if they made it really apparent. This doesn't affect me, but I know a lot of developers would also appreciate it, so they know when to start worrying about features popping up. And
what do you think about the current state of iOS 13.0 as a release candidate?
I haven't had that many issues. As a matter of fact, well, 2 days ago, the most annoying bug I've had with 13, and this is in the latest 13.0 and in now 13.1, the silence unknown callers toggle stopped working. So now I'm getting all these spam calls, and I've gotten so used to the last couple months of them going straight to voicemail. It's been so nice, and now they seem doubly annoying now that they're popping back up again. And restarting the device and resetting the toggle, none of that makes a difference. I still get all these phone calls now for some reason. But other than that, I really haven't had too many major issues. I still can't connect to any devices over like their own internal Wi-Fi network, like Robot Vacuum or Smart Plug. Like for setting something up, like, connect to this device's whatever device or Wi-Fi with this device's name to set up the device. I just can't do it. And I assumed it was like a security thing with 13. But I've never been able to set up my dash cam that I got 2 months ago because I can't connect to it. I tried a robot vacuum for a couple weeks and didn't like it. But I had to use my girlfriend's phone to set it up because my phone couldn't connect to its Wi-Fi. I picked up
Say that for the after show. I would love to hear about your robot vacuum.
Okay. I picked up some extra like smart outlets that were on sale, and in order to set them up, I needed to connect to their whatever Wi-Fi pairing system, and I couldn't do that. So it's actually getting pretty frustrating. And with every update, I'm hoping it fixes that bug, but I don't know if it's a bug or if those apps need to be updated for the new OS. I assume that's the case. I'm going to have to wait another month.
What does that have to do with an app, though? Because doesn't it just, the device puts out a Wi-Fi network and you go into settings, Wi-Fi, and then join to it?
Right. I can get that far as joining the network. But it seems like my phone restricts any data from being sent across that. And I don't know why. It could be a new permission that Apple's added that the app just needs to request or something. I don't know. Yeah, so I can get as far as pairing to the device over its Wi-Fi, but I can't actually do anything or finish the setup process. Okay.
Yeah, I don't look too harshly upon app issues at this stage because all the updates are coming with the public release. I just hope you've bought these devices from major manufacturers, because typically if it's from a little known Chinese company, you open the app and find it's still an iPhone 4 app, and you know that there's just no hope it's ever getting updated.
So far I've had this issue with Google product, the Google Home I couldn't set up. Garmin product I couldn't set up. That Wemo I couldn't do any of its stuff, and then a Nito, which was the robot. So
all right, yeah, they're all pretty major companies. Show-stopping bugs I think are going to get fixed. Maybe not optimization issues. Looking at Google, then they don't optimize things for years for new screen sizes sometimes.
I'd hope they have a day one update ready, and they're just waiting for Apple to allow apps targeting iOS 13 to be put on the App Store.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So I'm not really complaining about that, except that it's been frustrating, but I'm not blaming anyone at this point.
My complaints list is not that long, but it does have some pretty major things in there, such as daily resprings when trying to use multitasking on the iPad. That's just an absolute mess. I don't think you can even use iMessage in messages in a a slide over or a split view still in the latest beta. Just trying to use the new features, dragging Safari tabs into new windows or notes into new windows. Like if you do anything more than just the most basic of multitasking, I just find you just get crashing all over the place. Resprings. Some apps. I'm not going to complain so much about third-party apps. S-Barney UK actually noted in the comments that the 13.1 beta fixes a weather problem so that it uses the current location. So that might explain my weather in Borneo that I got the other week that we talked about. East Borneo. Mm-hmm. That's an island, actually, Borneo, made up of a few different countries, which is why I don't think we could place like what it was exactly during the show. In fact, reading the Wikipedia article, it still didn't really make clear what it was, but it seems to be just an island with a few nations. The Mail app is still pretty dodgy. Yeah, it just occasionally go in there and like there's nothing there, and it constantly forgets my filters, which is so frustrating because I nearly always keep my inbox just on the filter of show only flagged or unread emails, and every time I go in there the flagged part of that is missing. And the list goes on. I don't know where to start or where to stop. It just does not feel like a release candidate to me.
Right.
The question is, do I go on to 13.1 or do I don't know.
I haven't noticed any difference between the two. But I don't use my iPad very much. And since most of your issues are iPad, well, they have to be iPad related because that's all you're using. But yeah, I don't use my iPad very much. So
actually, one more question I had from all this is announce messages with Siri. Is that coming to the first gen AirPods? Because I think that'll be the deciding factor of buying the second gen.
Oh, I don't know. I've been using my second gen AirPods this whole time.
Do you use... Oh, I guess you can't have been using the announce messages with Siri because that was removed from the betas a little while ago.
Oh, was it? I don't use my AirPods very much either.
Really? Oh, man.
So I have very limited, like if I make a phone call while I'm at work, I will put them in to talk to someone. But if the main time I'm on the phone, I'm in my car, so it's going through CarPlay. And if I'm at home, I'm usually like in my office when I make a phone call, and I use my HomePod. And I don't listen to music with them at all. So there's very limited time that I use my AirPods.
You're using your HomePod to make phone calls?
Yep.
How does that work? I've never tried that.
Really? So, I mean, it's really simple. It's just a like Yo Siri, call whoever, and the HomePod will pick up that command as long as it has personal whatever enabled, and it makes the call. It uses my iPhone to make the call, and I've never heard any complaints about audio quality. So, yeah, there's nothing fancy to it. The only thing that's weird is you have to say, Yo Siri, hang up, if you want to hang up the phone call. And I've never actually asked anyone. I don't know if they hear me say hang up. Or if they're smart enough, Siri's smart enough to cut that part off. But it works great.
You could also just tap the top of it to hang up, couldn't you?
Right. Yeah, my HomePod's a little out of reach. Especially if I'm like sitting at my computer when I'm on the phone. So,
or you could just wait for them to hang up.
Right, but if you're in a fight with someone, you want to hang up on them, you have to do it.
Is that a common situation you find yourself in?
No. That's the new equivalent of slamming the receiver down on someone. Is you got to like yell, hang up.
There is some sort of phone technology. I think it's maybe ISDN as opposed to PSTN, where both parties have to hang up for it to terminate the call. How
does that work?
I don't know enough about phone technologies to explain why it happens, but occasionally I have, and this might also be throwing in like VoIP phones into the mix. But anyway, it has happened that I've just like left the call assuming that the other person has picked up, and then like half an hour later I've heard dialing as the person has picked up the phone again and started dialing a new phone number to make a new call, and realized that the call was still active the entire time.
That's crazy.
I know, it's crazy, but it has happened to me multiple times, calling multiple people. So it's always to like, yeah, I think it's ISDN. which is like an office business sort of multi-line service where it'd be going to a desk phone, not a mobile handset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
It seems like a really easy way to spy on someone is to call them and then just not hang up.
Could be. Not until they go to dial out again and find they can't.
Right. Okay, so I suppose it's not that useful, but it still seems weird.
You can't listen to them while their phone's hung up.
Right. Yeah, it's not quite spying.
Yeah.
Unless you can interpret the touch tones and you can tell who they were trying to call next.
Ooh, nice. We can go, what's it called when you do that?
Phone freaking?
Freaking, there you go. I'm thinking phishing. There's something with the H at the start.
What if you did this? You called someone, you got off the phone, but you didn't hang up on them, and then you set up like a separate phone line that's like listening for these touch tones. And so they pick up and dial. It hears and connects their calls, but you can still hear the call.
Man in the middle attack. Nice.
There you go. Yeah. That would be completely feasible.
Yeah, that could work. Interesting.
Yeah. I've never experienced this. So I don't know how practical that would be, but that seems crazy that technology exists.
I'll let you know if I ever exploit it.
All right. If you get rich, you got to split it with me.
So tell me, what does it sound like when you drop your Apple Card onto a counter?
All right. Well, let me move my microphone down and I'll let you listen. All right.
Wow.
How's that?
Okay. Yeah, it sounds really tinny.
I got a cool story with my Apple Card. I guess cool story. I have 2 Apple Cards. 2 of the metal ones.
How did that come about?
So, I ordered my titanium Apple Card live on the show last time, and apparently I rushed through it too quickly.
Well, you're under a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. So, because you remember when I was signing up for the card, it had like an old address of mine.
Yeah, the one thing you had to change or enter, address and social security.
Right. So I put my new address in, but I left my old zip code. I did not update that. And so I didn't notice, and everything was fine. And my card was being delivered via FedEx last week. And a FedEx truck pulled into my driveway and then backed out and left. I was like, oh, that's really weird. Why didn't they drop off my Apple Card? What's going on? And the wallet app had like an icon. It's like, your card is being delivered today. Tap here to track it. And I'd been doing that to keep an eye on it. And so I pulled the app out again and I tapped on it. And instead of pulling up my tracking information like it had, it's like, it now was prompting me to activate my Apple Card. Like it had maybe been delivered. So I tried out Apple's text support line. I sent a message. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. The FedEx guy pulled into my house but didn't drop off a package, and now the app is acting like the card's delivered. And the representative was super helpful. The interaction was probably my best experience with customer service ever, and my first ever doing it over text. But anyway, they looked at my information and they're like, oh no, it still says the card's out for delivery. I said, can you forward me the tracking information directly since the track button in the app doesn't work anymore? And they sent me a link to the FedEx tracking number, and I went on there and it said out for delivery to the city I used to live in, not my current one.
Damn.
Yeah. So I said, this isn't going to the right city. What's going on? And oh, your address is correct, but your zip code is wrong. And the representative was super apologetic about the whole thing. Oh, we're so sorry we messed this up. We're so sorry. This is 100% my fault. I put this in wrong. But they were super apologetic and we're just going to cancel this and we'll send you a new one to the right address. I was like, okay, cool. And so they canceled it, which I assume meant it wasn't getting delivered. But apparently the delivery people figured it out anyway. and delivered me my Apple Card that day, later in the day, which I couldn't activate because they had canceled the physical card. And then I just got my second Apple Card today. So now I have 2 Apple Cards.
Nice, okay. But one of them doesn't work, so you're going to have to send that to Australia for investigation.
So I have one that I can put in my wallet and my pants and get scuffed and stained, and one that'll stay nice and clean.
Yeah, maybe you should frame it and add it to your collection.
It's actually sitting up on a shelf next to my iPhones right now, but it comes with a pretty nice like envelope that it comes in, so it's just sitting in that right now on my shelf.
My first question is, how did the FedEx guy get into your driveway and then not work out what was going on?
It is possible that we have multiple delivery people run a day. Like multiple FedEx trucks drive down my street. I don't know how that's efficient, but it happens. So it was probably just a delivery guy, a different FedEx guy who didn't have my card and just used my driveway to turn around.
Ah, okay, right. So you don't think he had it on board and was looking at that zip code and thought, oh, no, this is not it, and then took off with it. That was my first assumption.
I mean, that's possible as well, is they tried to deliver it, saw the zip code was wrong, and then, like, maybe, I don't know how FedEx works. It's possible that he arrived, saw the information was wrong, set a status in there, says, this is wrong, and then some, like, head office, like, double-checked and, like, no, it's fine, just deliver that address anyway. I don't know. But either way, I'm kind of happy. I had to wait a week to get the physical card that's usable, but it's kind of cool to have 2. I'm probably one of the only people in the world to have 2 of them right now.
It's probably also good that you had to wait because Apple released a wonderful support article in the meantime about how to keep it clean and what sort of wallets do and don't suit the finish of the Apple Watch. Very important.
What an Apple thing to do, to release the card and then come out and say, don't keep it near leather, denim, or other credit cards. The 3 things that your card is going to be most likely to be in contact with at all time.
Slightly ridiculous.
Although I think it's even more ridiculous. I've seen, like on Twitter, tweets from other card providers that say stuff like, our cards won't get damaged being in leather. And it's like, no, that's not true. All of my credit cards are smudged and chipped and worn out. And it's very, very common for credit cards to get worn out. Apple Card's just the first one, and he cares if they get worn out.
I don't know. It depends how much you use it, David.
Well, here's the thing: is my Apple Card isn't in contact with any of those things, but it is rubbing against metal at all times, which I don't think is better. Because I've got a really weird wallet. So, I don't know. We'll see how that holds up.
Yeah, I look forward to reports of how it goes. But like you said, pretty much all credit cards or bank cards, cards of any sort, just turn to junk basically after a little while.
Right.
Although some people on Twitter are having issues already after mere weeks, whereas I would expect many months out of a plastic card before it started turning to junk.
What is an issue? Like just a scratch or something?
I think they were changing color already.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it is interesting that Apple opted to, instead of just having a polished metal finish, put this like white paint kind of layer on top of it. I think it probably would have been more durable, and I think it would even look better if it was just metal and not this white, but I don't know.
Anything else to add about the Apple Card? Like, how does it feel in your hand?
I saw a tweet before these were even like completely out to the public and just a handful of people were getting them that said it's both heavier than you'd expect and lighter than you'd expect at the same time. And I think it really does live up to that.
It's heavier than a plastic card and lighter than you'd expect a metal card to be?
Exactly that. You grab it thinking it's just like every other credit card or whatever bank card in your wallet, and it feels off for that reason. But then at the same time, when I was expecting a metal card in the mail and picked it up, it was surprisingly light. So I guess that's probably a sweet spot then, because it doesn't feel too heavy or too light. But it feels very premium, and I guess that's what they're going for.
I have an idea from Eli_Eve in the comments.
Okay.
Get a bunch of Apple cards and make wind chimes. Well, you've already got 2, so you're kind of
just keep going.
2/3 of the way there.
I mean, I guess my understanding, I haven't seen how you do this yet, is that Apple allows for you to request replacement cards. So I'm sure there's an upper limit to that, but you could probably do it a handful of times and really do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, just get a hole punched in it or a laser cut in it, probably. That'd look fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I can't imagine it looking anything but tacky, but
sure would. On August 24, 2011, Steve Jobs announced his resignation as Apple CEO 6 weeks before his death. Apple Insider takes a look back at how Tim Cook emerged as his successor. So this is a post submitted by iBanks3, an article by Apple Insider, which does a fairly high-level rundown of Steve Jobs' decline, and then a tiny little paragraph at the end about Tim Cook, really.
Right.
Did you have a read of the article and have the same sort of conclusion?
Yeah. When I read the title, I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. It's going to be like a comparison between Apple under Steve Jobs and Apple under Tim Cook and all that. It was more of just like this was the last couple of years of Steve Jobs' life. And then there's a little blurb at the end that says, Tim Cook CEO now.
That's exactly what it was. Should learn not to expect so much from appleinsider.com.
I don't think there was anything new in this article for me, since I've read Walter Isaacson's biography and I've seen all the keynotes they have linked and all of that. Maybe some of the nuance I wasn't exactly familiar with. Like, I knew Steve Jobs had taken a couple of medical leaves of absence. I was aware of that. I wasn't immediately aware that Tim Cook was acting as interim CEO during those times. It makes sense that someone was. I never bothered to even worry about who that was when it was actually happening. So it's interesting to see that, and that Tim Cook being appointed CEO or whatever, or Steve Jobs' successor, wasn't as spur of the moment as it kind of felt to me. There was definitely a lot leading up to that.
And he was also, Tim Cook was also kind of put forward by Steve Jobs as the successor as well. So it didn't really seem to be too spur of the moment looking back on it. They
did bring up in this article something that wasn't new to me today, but was probably new in the last year or so, I think, was that Tim Cook had offered to give Steve part of his liver when he was looking for a liver transplant. I think that just came out a year or so ago, which is really a testament, I guess, to how close they were. I assume he wasn't just doing that because Steve was his boss.
That's the ultimate underling sacrifice, isn't it? The ultimate suck up to your boss.
That's right.
You want part of my liver? How are your kidneys as well? Because, wait, is kidneys the thing you have 2 of? Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have one of those. Bonus.
So he just really wanted the CEO position.
Well, he got it by not giving away any liver, though, or kidney.
Well, maybe he was more aware of the fact that anything they were doing was just like prolonging the inevitable, and he wasn't going to last much longer. So he wanted to be like on his really good side when he did pass.
We're going down a dark path here.
No, Tim seems like a very genuine guy. I'm sure that he was completely sincere in those.
Oh yeah, no, he does. Yeah, just our comments about it. I mean,
yeah. They did reiterate an excerpt from his biography that had kind of faded from memory, but Steve had said something to the effect of he set up Apple in such a way that Johnny Ive was not reporting to anyone. There was no one above him. No one could tell him no. And basically gave him absolute control over at least his section of Apple. And I had forgotten I know Johnny's big at Apple, but I'd forgotten that he was like above questioning. So
yeah, he really became a head honcho at that point.
Yeah, and
to maybe the detriment of some things as well. Like I don't think iOS 7 like headed down a good path under Johnny's leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that making Tim Cook CEO was the right choice. But I remember there was a lot of people at the time that thought, like, why isn't Johnny becoming CEO since he's so above question and, you know, has had a big hand in the success of Apple and the design of all their products for the last, 15 years since Steve came back.
They seem like two completely different personalities, and Johnny just not being suited at all to a CEO style role. And Johnny's like the creative guy who, occasionally just moves to England for a few years to be with his family and, probably sits above people who are doing a lot of, he's doing a lot of, how would you say it, like out there thinking over, which texture the next blah blah will have, that sort of thing.
Right.
Whereas Tim Cook is the guy who gets the production lines running at like 1,000% efficiency, he came from like making Dell like this massive efficient company and has his head in the books. I think he came, I think he's a trained accountant. That would probably usually goes hand in hand with having a CEO role and running companies.
It's definitely Johnny and Tim are opposites in a lot of ways. But I wouldn't say that. I'd probably say that Steve and Tim are also opposites in a lot of ways. Steve Jobs had no formal training. He just had, a lifetime of experience running companies, I guess, and seemed a lot more on the conceptual level as well. I don't know how much Steve actually cared about. I'm sure he cared about optimizing pipelines and stuff like that, but he was definitely more of a product person. I don't think Tim is that quite as much.
Do you have any little pet? If Steve was here, this wouldn't have happened at Apple? I can tell you mine while you think. Mine would be iOS 7. I already mentioned that before. But I'd be surprised if iOS 7 came out as it did, so kind of Spartan and textless, featureless, if Steve Jobs was there. Buttons became text and shadows disappeared, and I think we would have seen a little bit more bit more like Forstall sort of style, even if I'm not disputing that it would have changed to a modern, like a slightly more modern interface, but I don't think it would have gone like quite that far if Steve was there, and Scott Forstall as well, of course, because he probably would have remained if Steve was there.
Right, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that
was it okay?
If Steve was here, Scott would be as well. Because from my understanding, Scott and Steve had very similar personalities, which made both of them really hard to work with. But one was Steve Jobs, and one is just Scott Forstall. So, Scott had a big contribution, but you can't act quite like that and not expect to get ousted. Especially when Johnny was positioning himself as it's either him or me. So
I wonder if Scott Forstall will have his Steve Jobs moment where he comes back into the company when it's on the decline and he lifts it up to these new great heights with all his textures and buttons and reel-to-reel decks in the podcast app. I'm just waiting for that to come back.
What is Scott Forstall doing right now? Is he doing anything that Apple could acquire?
If only we could ask Siri.
I'm sure she wouldn't tell it.
Actually, that was my little segue while you look it up into an article that didn't make the list of articles this week, but I'm not sure which beta it's in, but you will soon be able to ask Siri, like just general knowledge questions, and she'll return results, kind of like how Google does now.
Right.
But yeah, people have started posting screenshots of just typing standard questions into Siri, and it kind of does the whole search the web thing and picks the most likely answer and gives it back to you, which is cool. But anyway, back to you.
Interesting thing I just learned reading the Scott Forstall Wikipedia. He worked with Steve at Next. He came with Steve from Next to Apple.
Yeah.
I maybe should have known that, but did not.
And you call yourself a podcaster.
Oh, man. So here's what is under the present section of Wikipedia. I'm doing present in air quotes. So the first line is, Forstall did not make a public appearance after his departure from Apple for a number of years. And the most recent thing under his present tab is, on June 20th, 2017, Forstall gave his first public interview after leaving Apple. He was interviewed at the Computer History Museum by John Markoff for the 10th anniversary of the iPhone.
And that's it? There's nothing else there?
It doesn't say anything about what he went to do after Apple. Maybe he didn't go on to do anything? Or maybe this Wikipedia article just only cares about his time at Apple. There's just nothing about Scott Forstall after like 2012 or 2013. Like all the articles are really old.
Yeah, if you Google Scott Forstall 2019, you don't really get anything. Amazing.
Like the only thing that's coming up is interviews. Maybe he just literally retired.
He could do. I mean, he was born in the 60s. It's getting about that time.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Looking at this Wikipedia article, he was born. He's the same age as my mom. My mom is old. I don't understand how this could be. So, anyway. Yeah, it doesn't seem like Scott's going to do anything. At least nothing in the public eye.
Maybe he's sitting on a yacht in the Bahamas.
I'm sure he could do that. He doesn't need to keep working if he doesn't want to.
So probably the biggest article on the Apple subreddit in the last fortnight, even longer, maybe even month, is that a company called Zenz, in uppercase, and unveils an AirPower-like wireless charger with 16 coils to charge 2 devices anywhere on the mat. And this was worthy of you lowering yourself to send me an iMessage. Only kidding. But you did send me a message about it. So I figure you're excited, so tell me more.
I'm really anxious to see if they actually pulled it off. It's obviously a lot thicker than anything Apple was aiming for with AirPower. But this could be coming to market just because Zenz has like a lower quality control standard than Apple did, and these are still going to be ridiculously hot and not really feasible.
Zenz doesn't care about interfering with pacemakers.
I at first was really attracted to the glass topped like see-through charger. It seemed really like cool. I like see-through electronics. But then the thought, after I thought about some more, of setting my phone down on this glass surface every day is probably going to scratch it and my phone up. So now I'm leaning more towards this soft touch one that's also like $40 cheaper.
The interesting thing about the see-through one is you can just see where they've put the coils, and there doesn't seem to be anything especially fancy about it. It's just like a pretty standard, this is how circles of coils sit next to each other.
Yeah, it looks just like the patent sketches from AirPower. So
there must be some sort of some compute power behind which coils to power up and when, I would guess.
And this is half as many coils as Apple was aiming for, and it only charges 2 devices instead of 3. So there's definitely some compromises. It's not the full realization of what AirPower was going to be. But if this works and it gets in reviewers' hands here later and no one's complaining about it getting too hot or catching on fire, I might put it by my nightstand.
The other thing about the glass one is it actually costs $40 more at $180.
Right. That man, I need to keep track of when I see this. I don't know if this was on a Reddit post or if this was another tweet I saw, but someone referencing the see-through design says, "Who's going to pay $40 more for the glass version?" The response was, "It's the same people who pay more for the space gray version of the keyboard and mouse."
that was on the Reddit post.
Okay,
Brand Cracker says that.
So, and I definitely got suckered in. I like the look a lot more, but I'm too worried about damaging my phone and the charger over time.
The other thing to worry about damaging is that your house, as well as Weedy Surfboard says, bets on how long until one starts a fire. We will find out soon enough, says Eddie Fick.
Yeah, this isn't going to be like a day one purchase for me. I'm going to give it probably a good month at least to make sure.
Give it 2 to 3 house fires before you buy one yourself.
Yeah, I'll be like one of those. There's still people who have the Note 7 to this day. I'll be like one of them. It's like, it won't happen to me. This is too cool to give up.
I haven't heard much about Note 7s. I mean, there mustn't be enough in the wild that there are any problems anymore.
I mean, they did basically a full recall, right? So the only people who still have them are the people who didn't voluntarily send their phones back in the recall.
Yeah.
I assume most people are going to be smart enough to do that.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
So, well, it's the same thing with the MacBook Pros being banned from certain flights. It's a 100% honor system.
An Australian airline has banned any MacBook Pro from going in checked luggage. You have to take it and carry on. Yep, any and all of them.
Wow.
They probably got sick of just trying to work out, is this the 2015 like blah 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 15-inch?
Yeah.
They're just like, nah, screw it.
Was it made this year? Does the serial number have these letters in it? And it's
right.
It's too hard to tell that kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to fill like 250 people onto an airplane.
So, I mean, the Note 7's a little easier because it's pretty. It's one device, and all of them are wrong or bad. But I don't even think airplanes are asking about those anymore. So now that we're already on to the Note 10.
Yeah. I don't think so. I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah. So, all right.
Well, I'm James VDM on Reddit and on Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
Have you heard about the TV show The Boys?
I have heard quite a bit about it at work. I've heard it's really, really good, and I need to watch it.
Yeah, it is really good. I don't usually get into TV shows these days. I don't know why, but it's just not in my personality anymore. But yeah, I've really gotten into it.
And it's only available on Prime Video, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How have you been liking that service?
Prime Video is great. I highly recommend it.
Oh, really? I've never used it.
No, sorry. I tried to put on like I didn't use it, get it via Prime Video voice, but that didn't really come across.
It almost sounded like you were saying that I'm crazy to even ask because it's such a good service.
Okay. Yeah, okay. No, I saw this really great meme a few weeks ago. So there's a guy looking at a computer screen, and it's like a 4-panel. So first panel, guy looking at a computer screen with the Netflix logo on it, and he's holding a pirate hat, and he's saying, "Goodbye, old buddy," and he's putting the pirate hat in a chest with 2012 in the panel. And then in the next panel, maybe it's only 2 panels, he's looking at a screen, and it's just covered in the logos from all the streaming services, and he's opened the chest, and he's pulling out the pirate hat covered in cobwebs and says, I don't know, "Welcome back, old friend." That's the boat I'm in.
I feel very similar. It's getting to be unwieldy to manage all these subscription services, and I appreciate Apple that's trying to like unify them in one app. I feel like that could help, but it doesn't help with the fact that I'm spending $10 a month per app.
The TV app is a Band-Aid over like a chainsaw cut.
Right. And I'm really looking forward to Disney Plus. I'm going to get that and the Hulu bundle, and I think that's going to make things feel a lot nicer for me. And I'll probably get Apple TV Plus at least for a while to see how it is. And I have Amazon Prime, so I guess I have Prime Video, but I've literally never even downloaded that app. So I've never had a compelling reason to.
Well, The Boys just might be one. It's a pretty good show.
It seems like it. I'm hearing, especially now coming from you, it seems like I'm getting it from all sides that I need to watch this show. So I think I'll check it out.
And the marketing campaign is incredible around my city. Like, there are massive billboards all over the city for this TV show.
Really?
I've never really seen that for TV shows at this scale before.
Well, I don't live anywhere as big as Perth, so maybe they're not targeting my neck of the woods.
Maybe not. Perth's not a massive city.
It's one of the bigger cities in Australia, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's the capital city of the state I'm in, but, I mean,
Yeah.
You guys have, like, massive, massive cities. Like,
I'm in the middle of nowhere. So there's farms and cows around me.
I think, like, Tokyo City has a bigger population than the entire country of Australia.
Oh, man. I mean, it's the same here. I think there's like a couple cities in California have more population than the rest of the country. So
let's look up San Francisco population. Only 800,000? That doesn't seem right.
I think it's
yeah, it is.
San Francisco. Yeah. What about Los Angeles?
Los Angeles, 4 million. Okay. That's even... I thought it would be much bigger than that. So Perth is about half of Los Angeles, which is pretty reasonable.
That's big.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like I'm competing on the world stage all of a sudden. Although I think California as a state has a bigger GDP than the whole of Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the population of the state of California is 39.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's not actually on the scale of... Because there's 327 million people in the U.S., so... My numbers were off. Still, big area.
Australia has 1/3 of the GDP of California.
Oh, man. All right. So...
we were saving something for the after show.
Mm-hmm. I decided to try out my Apple Card. I thought my first big purchase with the Apple Card should be... a robot vacuum.
Nice.
Because we had recently our vacuum had burned up, so we needed a replacement. And I thought,
just like the Note 7.
Yeah, I mean, it did literally melt, so quite a bit like the Note 7. I thought it's been like 10 years since robot tech like vacuums hit the market. This has to be reasonably evolved technology at this point that's good enough to get into the home. And I did a lot of research before I went and bought one, and because prior to doing any research, I thought like Roomba was like the only option. There's Roomba robot vacuums and that's it. But there's actually some really strong competitors nowadays.
Yeah, and a million clones.
Yeah. And it seems like their biggest competitor, and what seems to be arguably, at least according to the stuff, the comparisons and tests I did, maybe the best robot vacuum in the market, is made by Neato.
How do you spell that?
It's Neato. And the Neato D7 seems to beat the Roombas in terms of like suction and coverage and like dust trap size and mapping technology and features in the app and all of that. The only thing the Roombas really have, which is kind of cool, is the self-emptying. They dock themselves and can empty their dust bins into a bag.
Okay.
But, and this is the catcher for me, and like the selling point was the Neato was half the price of the Roomba. So it was either...
Really?
It was either like $650 for the Neato or $1,300 for the Roomba.
$650. Wow, man, we're getting ripped off here. I'm talking like
really?
over $1,000.
Oh man.
Actually, sorry, that's just the currency conversion. Yeah, no, I'm saying $750 US. Okay. It's about comparable.
It probably was $750 and it was just on sale because I think it was like $100 off or something.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so like, oh, this seems great. It seems like it's arguably the best robot on the market, and I feel like I'm getting a good deal since it's so much cheaper than its like nearest competitors. So I went out and I bought it, and I set it up, and it like mapped out my whole the main floor of my house, and let me configure the rooms so I could name each room, and put like virtual lines in the app, like say, don't drive over here because you're going to get stuck on like my kids' toys or something. And then I set up scheduled times. So like after meal times when the kids eat, it'll come out and it'll clean the dining room and kitchen only after every meal.
Just what you need.
Right. And then once a day it'd do the whole house, like while the kids are at school. And for the first couple days it was perfect. It worked great. And then one day it like, I got a notification while I was at work on the app. It's like, help me, I'm stuck. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I come home and it's just like sitting in the middle of the room and it's stuck. It's like, this is really weird. So I put it back on its dock and it worked fine for like the rest of the day from just cleaning up the dining room and stuff. And then the next day it started another cleaning round. It was just supposed to do the dining room. It's like in the night after dinner. And, it wandered all the way across to the house into my bedroom.
While you were sleeping?
Well, I mean, this was like, I was going to bed. I was in bed. I wasn't asleep.
Okay.
But
it just came to say goodnight.
It came into the bedroom. I was like, it's not supposed to be in here. Why is it all the way on the other side of the house? This is weird.
And then it starts,
so
Dada, I'm lost. I'm thirsty.
So I hit the button on the app to send it back to the dock, and it like, I don't know where I am, beep boop. And so I had to pick it up and put it back on the dock. And then it showed...
God, it's exactly like a real child. Dads will relate.
So after every time it runs, it like gives me a map of like, this is the areas I cleaned. And it only showed on the map it was in the dining room. Like it thought it was still in the dining room, but it had wandered all the way across the house into my bedroom. And it did that again like the next day. It didn't make it to the dining room, but it went somewhere else. I don't remember where. And at some point during this, I started sending messages to NATO support. I'm like, this is acting weird. I don't expect it to do this. They did a few troubleshooting things, and nothing was working. And I got frustrated. I'm like, there must be something wrong with this, because all I've seen is glowing reviews for this device. So it must just be defective. And I took it back to Best Buy, and I got a replacement one. And I set it up in the house, and it worked great for a couple days.
Oh no, really?
And for a couple days it was perfect, the same way. And then when it would start a scheduled cleaning run, it would drive off the dock like it was going to start cleaning, and then it would beep and drive itself back onto the dock, and then I'd get a notification that says, I don't know where I am. I can't figure out this room. Yeah. And I probably could have spent more time messing with it, but I just got really frustrated at that point. I was like, this is not the point of a robot vacuum, is for me to mess with it every day. I'm just going to return it and get like a really nice Dyson instead. So that's what I did.
Oh, so you got a non-robot vacuum?
Yeah.
Or a Dyson robot?
No, I don't think Dyson makes robots.
I have no idea. Yeah, okay.
I got one of the cordless Dyson vacuums. Which I kind of miss the utility, or like how nice it was to come home and like everything, it like cleans up the whole house. To have the house like freshly vacuumed every day when you get home is nice. But it wasn't worth it. It was defeating the purpose of having a robot vacuum if I have to interact with it that much every day. Yeah. So I'll give it another couple years maybe, and then maybe try something else next time I need a vacuum. But
yeah, when like a $700 robot vacuum can't even work for a few days without getting lost in like the middle of your room.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird part, is it worked so well for a couple days and then it just stopped, both of them. So I don't know what was going on.
Did you have any firmware updates or anything that you could have done?
I mean, I did firmware updates as soon as I set both of them up. So.
It wasn't an iOS 13 problem, was it?
No, it doesn't like use the phones for processing or anything.
Okay.
So, and I couldn't use my phone to set it up because I couldn't pair it to it. So I used my girlfriend's phone on iOS 12.4.
Looks like Dyson does make a robot vacuum. 2.5 stars on Amazon.
Oh, nice. So, but I've done a lot of research on vacuums. If you've got any questions about robot vacuums.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a perfect house at the moment for a robot vacuum. There are no like levels. It's all one level. Most of it is like a non-shaggy carpet, and except for like kitchen and bathroom, which is one's tile and one's like vinyl planks. It's the perfect house for a robot vacuum. And of course, I have like a 2-year-old, so the place gets messy very quickly.
Right.
But I've just been put off by the price tags because I think, like you, I've looked at Roomba, which is kind of the brand everyone knows.
Right.
We're talking like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think Roomba is like dangerously close to like Kleenex territory, where every robot vacuum is just a Roomba.
Yeah. Although we don't have that Kleenex thing in Australia.
Oh, really?
We'll ask you for a tissue, not for a Kleenex.
Oh, what about Band-Aid?
Oh, yeah, no. You'll get asked for a Band-Aid. Or an Elastoplast if you need the fabric one. Velcro, yeah. Not hook and... Oh, what's that song that's coming back to haunt me?
Hook and loop.
Hook and loop.
So, well, actually...
actually, I just have a quick question while we're going on names. What do you call like a colourful, like felt-tipped thing that you would use to like colour in a picture with?
A marker?
Okay. We would call it a texter.
A texter? I've never heard that.
Really?
Is that a brand?
I thought it was an American... Yeah, it's a brand. TEXTA.
No. As a matter of fact, oh yeah, I've never seen these. All of our markers are made by Crayola.
Oh, really? All of them? Okay.
It seems like most of them that I've ever seen.
What about the white liquid that you use to like blot out a pen mistake?
Whiteout?
Okay, yeah.
Is that a trademarked word term?
Probably, I think, but I know some countries use some other word for it.
Oh yeah, its generic term is correction fluid.
No way, it's something else. I'm searching white out South Africa because I think it's South Africa, and I'm getting all sorts of like highly political articles.
So, well, back to the question of robot vacuums. If I were to get another robot vacuum to try again, and I didn't want to, which I don't want to, spend $1,400 on whatever the best Roomba is, there's a company called Roborock. And
sounds like a dance, but yeah. Okay.
Roborock makes apparently one of the best robot vacuums as well. And it doubles as a mop. So
I think these have been recommended to me in the past.
Mm-hmm. These come really highly recommended, and they're even half the price of the Neato stuff.
It's a Xiaomi, isn't it? It's a Xiaomi brand.
I believe so, yeah. That sounds right to me.
I wonder who they copied.
Well, the spinning LiDAR on top is the same way that Neato works, but it's not the same way Roomba works.
Right.
Which, from my understanding, is better, because iRobot, for their Roombas, they have a camera on top that like maps your ceiling, so it understands the room it's in. Mm-hmm. So it really only works well when it's light, but the Neatos and the Roborocks can run in the dark because they're using LiDAR instead.
Okay.
So
kind of what you want.
Right. Yeah, it seems better. I've heard really good things about these. There's a YouTube channel actually I watch called Vacuum Wars. And they buy every kind of vacuum and put them like really to their paces and compare them. Like,
where has this channel been all my life?
I've just been watching videos about vacuums recently because it's really interesting. But yeah, this is one of their top vacuums, even though it's also like relatively cheap compared to some of the competitors, or extremely cheap compared to the competitors.
Yep.
So that's the way I'd go if I were to try something else now.
Maybe Christmas time.
Yeah.
Or when my current vacuum dies. Current vacuum is a Buy Nothing group special.
Oh, yeah?
You remember the Buy Nothing groups I was telling you about once?
Yeah.
People just upload stuff they don't want. Yeah, instead of landfill. Oh, we got this really nice German vacuum, so...
Nice.
Yeah.
So I also did learn something, which I was curious about as a result of returning this vacuum. I was curious how Apple was going to handle returns with the Apple Card, because I gotten $17 in daily cash or cash back from the purchase, and they just deducted it from the return amount. So it wasn't free money.
So you kept the Apple Pay cash in your wallet?
Right, it stayed in my cash card, and I just didn't get refunded quite the whole amount.
Ah, okay. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Could have been a secret for free money. Just buy expensive stuff and return it.